Well, this is the beauty of live television. Can you tell me which camera we're in? Anyways, you're watching Latino Talk TV. Tonight we're going to discuss the Houston homeless situation here in town. We have some really wonderful guests. We have the search team, and we also have, search homeless services, and we have the serve team here, both here with us tonight. We're going to get really in depth about what they do and how they help the community. But before we do that, let's talk about what's going on out there. Ben, what do you got?
Well, one of the top stories is the Ted Cruz story.
Okay.
As you know, he won his U.S. Senate bid against Dewhurst. And nobody thought he could do it a year ago. And now he's on top. And he's going to be the next senator, supposedly.
Well, there's still an election going on in November.
That's correct. That's correct.
Greg, what do you think?
Well, it's a Cinderella story. You still got to get past Sadler. I think the Democrats are going to really fight for that seat also.
No, I really am impressed about how he used social media to win the campaign. I think he spent a lot less than David Dewhurst. Dewhurst ran a traditional campaign. I think politics are changing these days. It's no longer a traditional political process anymore. Facebook, Twitter, all the YouTube, all those things are really playing a big part in elections these days. And I think all of these candidates need to get with the times. What do you think?
The Tea Partiers came out to vote. It'll be interesting to see if they come out to vote in November against Obama.
Well, I think the rest of the people, the non-extremists, the middle of the road people, do you really want to be associated with an organization that is that extreme on both ends?
Not to take up for the Tea Party, but Dewhurst, when he went on the attack, people are tired of that ugly politics. I think it hurt him more than it helped him.
No, I agree. Every time you turned the channels, there he was talking bad about Ted Cruz, and ultimately that was his downfall.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of sad that a person with that much experience, no matter if you agree or not, the individual, David Dewhurst, had the history to be able to walk into that type of leadership position, and we elected someone, or we put in a position to run against the Democrat. Someone with no experience whatsoever, has ever held an elected position ever. He's walking right into the Senate position. So you're right. It's a Cinderella story.
Solicitor General, I think.
But he wasn't elected. He was appointed, so it's a big difference.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you what, I think it's only obvious that the Tea Party has having a big impact within the Republican Party, and I think any incumbent, the sentiment out there is, all bets are off.
Yeah, they are, and I think everybody needs to wake up and go vote. Like what's going on.
Well, who was looking at this race very closely was Mitt Romney. There's been a lot of talk about him selecting a VP, perhaps Rubio from Florida, but they really wanted to watch this race to see what kind of impact it would have. So obviously Ted Cruz won, and that sends a big message to Mitt Romney.
Well, there's a first Latino situation going on here. First Latino to be
U.S. Senator here in Texas.
To be elected to run for the position of U.S. Senator in Texas. And he's doing it on the Republican Party side. I think it's pretty historic.
So let's just say Mitt Romney does select Mr. Rubio, Senator Rubio from Florida. Does that hurt him or does that help him?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Considering there's a lot of anti-Hispanic sentiment out there in some states. We look at this anti-immigration, we look at all these issues that are affecting Latinos. Will it help them or hurt them?
Well, I think that argument can no longer stand here in Texas because the Republican Party just put a Ted Cruz on the table to run. So how can you say that's anti-Hispanic?
Well, some people will say that Ted Cruz is not really Hispanic.
Well, we'll have to find out. We have to invite him onto the show. Hopefully he can join us one of these days.
He was born in Canada, I think.
Well, he's still Ted Cruz, no? Like Jose Cruz? No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Let's go on to a different topic.
All right. We can't have a show without talking about the Olympics.
That's right.
And we are all very proud of Mr. Michael Phelps for getting his, 22 medals now?
Yeah, he's the most decorated Olympian in history.
Wow.
22 medals and still counting, right? Or are they almost done?
That I don't know, but just to have 22 medals, can you imagine?
Man, I don't get tired with that many medals on my neck. What else is going on?
The other Olympians that we are watching closely is Mark Lopez and his family. Of course, they're the Taekwondo champions from Sugar Land. And also Marlene Esparza from Pasadena. She's a boxer.
Wow.
She made it to the semifinals yesterday. So hopefully she can win a gold medal for the U.S.
She's been on the cover of Vogue magazine. She's been, I mean, not on the cover, but they did a feature story on her. She's getting a lot of press, and I think she was doing some endorsing for Revlon or somebody. Yeah, that's good for her.
Yeah, but she's homegrown right here in Pasadena.
Well, we're gonna have to bring her on the show quick. Now let's get on something different. For those that may not know, there was a shooting at a temple. Is it a temple?
It was a temple.
A temple in Wisconsin. It was a Sikh temple.
Yeah.
And it's a very tragic situation. And it's another domestic terrorist situation. Some are calling it that. Others are saying it's not. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of racism out there, and it's popping up everywhere. It'll be interesting to see what they find out about this gentleman that did it. Obviously, he was in the military, and he's from a supremacist group, supposedly. So we'll see what happens in the investigation that comes out.
I tell you that it's good to see people that are like our guests today on today's show, and because hate is it's terrible.
It is.
Just hate, and to see these young people giving their lives and giving of themselves, and fighting for the cause, if you will. So I mean, my hat goes off to these young people.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to move on and we're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to bring our first guest, and we're going to really find out what's going on here in Houston with these organizations who are doing a tremendous job at helping the community and actually working hard to lower the homeless population here in Houston. So with that, you're watching Latino Talk TV. We'll be right back. All right, you're watching Latino Talk TV. I'm your host, Gonzalez Jimenez, and now let me introduce to you our wonderful guests. First, we have Ms. Thao Costis, the CEO of Search Homeless Services. Hello. Hi. We have Tabitha Gonzalez with the SERV team, your SERV team leader. Will Hernandez also, welcome. And Doug Sinitiere with the SERV team. You're all three are leaders, and
Yes,
also you two are the founders.
Yes, sir.
Okay, don't call me sir. I know. Relax. You're amongst friends, okay? So first and foremost, Will and Tabitha, tell us how the SERV team got started. What do y'all do?
Well, with the SERV team, first of all, how I got started is through a service called the 429. We get together every Saturday night and just basically have like a church service, but it's a multi-church, multicultural, different ages, generations that go out and do like a non-denominational service. But out of that, it came out of a passion for people to serve the city. And everybody was doing their own individual thing. You know, we have families doing one thing and young professionals doing another. We just decided to put a name on it and call it the SERV team because that's exactly what we do. We serve the community. Now, we don't go and preach and like tell you, sit through our service and we'll give you food. We actually just go and just do life with anybody with homeless, nursing homes, food pantries. We go and serve our city.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing it?
We're going on 2.5 years now.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, I'm excited about the opportunity that they're here because there's not a lot of topics that we cover that are related to the homeless. Mm-hmm. And the people that are watching TV tonight need to know some of the facts about the homeless. It's my understanding that the number of homeless actually declined. Is that correct?
Well, based on the count that the Coalition for the Homeless did, which they do every year around January, February, point in time, meaning on that day, they found right now about 7,300 people who are living in shelters or on the streets.
Compared to what?
Compared to last year, it was closer to 9,000. So, so of course, there's a science that they're trying to perfect in trying to count people who are homeless, finding them in the first place. Our community, our city is so big. Mm-hmm. So it can be complicated. And so, yes, they have determined that from last year to this year, the number went down some, at least the number that they saw or could count. And so, it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what the attributes are to reduce that number. Our resources here in our community are still very limited, and so out of the 7,300 people who are homeless, only half of them have a place to go.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what Search Homeless Services does?
Sure. Search Homeless Services is an organization that started in the late 80s because of the change in our economy back then. And for all of a sudden, people found themselves to be on the street. Families, for the first time, were experiencing homelessness. And so Search created a place, just like with this group, it was volunteers who were volunteering at a shelter who saw that there was a need beyond a place to sleep at night. And so they created a day shelter, a place that they can go get their meals, get a shower, get their clothes washed, and have somebody to talk to. And from there, it grew into an organization that's engaging people, stabilizing them, because we have a lot of people who are mentally ill or addicted to alcohol and drugs, and so trying to get them stabilized, educate them, both adults as well as children, employment, and housing. So helping them get into housing and then stay in housing.
Tabitha, what are the misconceptions that are out there? Because I think people would think that the homeless community would be people that are out downtown sleeping on sidewalks or benches, but there's a lot of homeless families, right? Wasn't there a young child who was homeless and who was top of her class in Florida or something to that? So what are the misconceptions out there?
Correct. We've actually had one of the homeless people that we do have the opportunity to help. He was an engineer working full time, and because of the economy and everything that's happening right now, got laid off and has been trying to get back on his feet. So a lot of times the misconception is, oh, these people are lazy, they just want a free handout. But when in reality, they're really trying to get back on their feet, and they just don't have the resources or the tools to do that. And this involves families, with children, single parents. It's a wide variety of different groups of people.
Doug, so what do you do with this search?
Well, one of the things I'm involved with is our homeless outreach, and it actually came about with a partnership from some students from Sam Houston State that decided to give of their time and come down. They gathered up clothing, and at that time they were handing out food and just giving people hope. One of the things that we found being down there, the start point, if you will, the follow-up is getting jobs, but the start point is even asking them their name, where they're from, digging in there. Sometimes it's amazing. You can see the hope that gives somebody.
Yeah.
And so, the third Friday of every month we gather up, and there's a lot of people that, just need simple things, and, whether it's clothing or something like that, and just a word of encouragement. It's amazing how far that can go.
I was thinking about this the other day. There's very few immigrants that you see living on the street, and I know they're out there. I just don't know where they are. So do you find that most of the Hispanic homeless people are immigrants from somewhere else?
We don't see that many Hispanics in our organization either. Probably less than 5% of the people that we serve are. What we have found is that they find ways to link up with somebody else and stay with other people. I think they're more resourceful in that way. People are more tolerant. And also, when they do get help, they tend to go to organizations that are more geared towards the Latino population, Casa Juan Diego or others that, the language is not going to be a problem. I mean, we have people that can speak Spanish, but they're not as fluent. And then just the other people that are in our building and seeking our services don't necessarily look like them or, have their same challenges. And so I think they do tend to gravitate towards organizations that are more geared towards the Latinos.
Well, all of you guys, mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just, it's overpopulating the jail system. You guys, what you guys are doing, what do y'all see? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, I think you definitely see a lot of that. Search would probably be, I may serve a lot more of that population, but from what we see out in the streets, it's sad. I mean, 2 days ago I was in downtown, and this guy walking around there, his pants are almost falling down, and he's got nothing on, and people are just walking around him, and I stood and just parked for about 5 minutes just to see what was going on, and of course he was mentally disabled, if you will, and you saw that people just really, they would prefer to walk on the other side of the street prior to just going up to them. And I know there's a danger aspect to it, but you never know that like Doug said, a voice of hope and inspiration. What that may actually do to somebody that may not necessarily be all the way to, to total mental illness level, but it could help them, or it could guide them somewhere. We see a lot of that on the streets. So we see a lot of disabilities. Most of the time, we just kind of talk to them. I mean, I tell our team when we go out, they'll hear the same story over and over and over, but it's because everybody wants to tell their story.
I would think within Harris County, there's, I'm sure, organizations that are funded by the county, but then there's criteria that they have to, and so then you guys are open for everyone. Is that correct?
Right, yes. You know, it's so great to have SERV be part of the solution. Yes, you know, unfortunately, the Mental Health Retardation Authority, which is our local county organization, their resources are so limited because they depend on the state dollars and the county dollars. And so they only can focus on the most severely sick and ill. And so they end up cycling in and out of our jail system. I mean, there are about 1,400, so in that same count, there are over 1,400 people who are in jail that otherwise would be homeless. And so that's on top of the 7,400 that I mentioned. So yeah, it's unfortunate that it's a very inefficient way of addressing mental illness.
Well, let's address that, because if you watch politics today, you know, it's all about spend less and smaller government and the intrusion of government in our daily lives and all these wonderful little, you know, rhetoric catchphrases that are out there. So the real people who are getting affected when you cut state funding and have a massive rainy day fund are the people out in the streets. Is that not true?
Well, I'm sorry, let me just add a little note to that. And it's more expensive, you know, to address the needs of somebody who's homeless versus somebody who's housed. And so, yeah, so we are putting like $86,000. That's how much it costs in LBJ, our county hospital, to serve somebody who's homeless in a given year versus $43,000 for somebody who is housed. So, of course, you know, anybody who's using the county system, they're poor. But, you know, when they're homeless, it really, because their problems are more acute and accentuated. So for us to be practical, you know, conservatives, we ought to be thinking about solutions. I mean, let's utilize our volunteers and our community to help those connect to our resources and figure out a way that we can get people off the street, because if they're off the street, we can serve them so much better.
Well, you had mentioned to me a story about a young man that you found in the street.
Yeah.
How old was he again?
16.
16. Tell the viewers a little bit about that story.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a fairly simple story. If you really break down, it amazes us, because it was a 16-year-old born in El Paso, Texas, but was taken to Mexico and raised in Mexico. So came here at 1 a.m. on a Friday night, and we go out every first Saturday of the month, and we're at a soup kitchen, and we go and invite, you know, everybody that's around the city to go and come eat breakfast here. And walked up to this kid, he's 16 years old, and I'm like, what are you doing here? The guy doesn't know any English, so he only knew Spanish, but he's a U.S. citizen. And ended up just talking to him right outside the Beacon, which if you've heard any updates about the Beacon, they're actually not letting people sleep under the secured area anymore. Now they have to sleep literally on the sidewalk.
What is the Beacon? Tell the viewers who may not know what the Beacon is.
Well, the Beacon's actually a resource center where anybody who's on the streets can actually go and shower. They can wash their clothes. They'll eat once a day. And so we go out every first Saturday and serve them breakfast so they can eat twice a day. It's an amazing thing how that works. But he was out there just trying to get a shower. And his mentality was, my family is, just completely in trouble in Mexico. And he wants to come to the U.S. to find work. By 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, we were able to get him breakfast. By 9 a.m., the SERV team, which is just made up of volunteers, young professionals, families, single parents, kids, teenagers that come out and serve, took him on and got him new clothes. By 9 a.m., we took him to Marshall's, got him new clothes. By 10 a.m., they started calling family members and people they knew that would have an extra room. So they got him a place to live. Then they got him a job at a car wash. So it's like within 12-hour time period from when he got here, we could have easily said, hey, here's breakfast, here you go, God bless you, we'll see you next month. But instead, a group of volunteers, like she said, that's the initial step. People that have a passion that want to go serve. And they got around him and prevented him from getting into drugs. Human trafficking. Houston is the center for the United States of human trafficking. gangs, alcohol, whatever it is that he could have gone into was prevented that day because a group of volunteers said, we want to make a difference.
And to top it off, a week later, he got a birthday party thrown for him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So I personally admire everything that y'all do, and now I'm going to speak on behalf of all those not so wonderful naysayers that are out there. Okay, so I'd rather ask you guys here so we can hear the direct responses instead of just seeing the anonymous posts on all the websites that are out there. So there's people out there who believe that that's just enabling the criminal element that's coming into our country and all these little wonderful catchphrases, right? But what do you say to people who say, stop doing that? You're enabling those people to maintain that lifestyle. Is that really true?
Good.
I think actually it's an amazing opportunity to provide these people with the tools and the resources that they need to keep them away from stealing because they don't have the job that they need to provide the funds to buy food or to buy something to drink. So I think it's a chance for us to say, here's the tools that you need to get to this next step in your life to keep you away from the things that are going to bring you down.
It's a lottery, right? Who we're born to, what situation we're born into. I mean, we are fortunate that we had good families, and maybe it was poor, but they cared and gave us the education that we needed. But a lot of people are born into such extreme poverty or extreme health conditions, and I think there's a lot of misperception about who's homeless. We talked about a little bit of that, and the causes and the extenuating circumstances that keep people homeless. And by helping people, it's not enabling. I mean, people don't want to sleep in 100-degree heat and be bitten by mosquitoes and be sick. I mean, really, is that a good choice? I do talk to these individuals who've been out there for years, and I ask them, you know what? There was this one gentleman in front of our building, and he'd been out in the street for 8 years. An Anglo male who was born into a decent, good family and had education, moved down here, and yes, became an alcoholic, but he's not drinking now. But it's like for 8 years, he's disconnected from society because he feels like he can't fit back in. So nobody has asked him, what do you want? Would you, if you could get an apartment, would you do it? And he's like, well, I haven't thought about it. It's because nobody's asked, and he hasn't figured out how do I get out of this.
Yeah.
And so that's what they need is somebody like the SERV team to just say, you know what? There are choices. And so what choice do you want to make? Do you want to keep sitting here, or do you want to do something a little bit better? And it may take a little while for somebody to make that change, but we keep trying.
Yeah.
And at the end, all of us, have a better life. It's not just about that person, but it's about our quality of life. We don't want people in front of our businesses or, urinating, defecating, and doing all the things that humans do. But when they don't have choices, they end up doing it in places that we don't want.
That's right. I'm going to open up the phone lines here. There's going to be a phone number on the screen if you'd like to join us. Have any questions for our guests, please call in. Ben, great.
Doug, you mentioned something about some students from Sam Houston State coming in and helping. I met some of the guys in the room earlier, and the diversity, the age group, and the passion. I mean, what is it? What's the drive? What is it?
It's really for living something that's going to outlive you. And I think in a lot of to your point, if you can get somebody that's in a tough situation out of that, they may have a family, and that changes their family and changes some things. So it's really living for what is going to outlive you, and just serving under the least of these. That's what we believe.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of stories or been involved with a lot of cases. Which ones are the ones that have really touched your heart?
It's the loners. It's those people that, like this gentleman who, he has a grown son and a grown daughter, but he's ashamed of his situation. And so the stories that touch me are when they kind of make that shift, and they decide, you know what, it's not just about me. It's about my family and what they want and how I can see beyond my day-to-day. And so we think about the most vulnerable, and we serve the little babies, the little preschool children, and these adults who, to us, are children in grown-up bodies. They just never had the opportunity. And so it's the people that really felt so lost. And then they come to see the light and they say, you know what, there is something better. And that's the thing that moves me.
I think everyone in life has been at a crossroad, and unfortunately they've made the wrong turn. But people like you are getting them back on track. Is that what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's just a decision away from that crossroad.
So can you talk to us about how many counselors does Search have, where the service is at, how does someone go about helping? Because I understand you guys were in a real tough financial situation not too long ago yourselves, right?
Well, yes. Well, of course, the state cut back, and then federal stimulus dollars went away at the same time a year ago. And so we had to shrink back and cut our staff down by 30%. So that hurts when you have 100 people that work for us. And, we're a very diverse organization that has the preschool on up to the case management, as you mentioned, the counselors. So we have now we have about 30 different counselors or case managers, and they're the ones that provide the one-on-one guidance. We don't tell people what to do. We ask them about, here are your options, and what do you want? Because at the end of the day, they have to be the ones to make the decision. We can't tell people what to do. It's about our behavior change, right? All of this is about behavior change. Whether we're trying to eat less or exercise more or do something.
What are you trying to say?
Wow.
My arms are sore.
I might send some of my case managers over to talk to you. No, but it's hard to make a change about yourself, right? And so that's what these individuals are dealing with too, but they don't have anybody to help them.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of pressure, social peer pressure, and they've kind of rejected that. And so we are there to show that we care. And so we do that in downtown area. We're actually in the Midtown area, and we would love to have volunteers, you guys, to serve meals or to just sit down and talk to some of our clients.
So where can they reach you all to help and volunteer?
On our website, searchhomeless.org, or call us at 713-739-7752.
You hear about this like at Thanksgiving, going to help serve during Thanksgiving and what have you. But this is a 365-day
Yes, sir.
issue. I don't want to call it a problem, but it's not just that one day that we got to give thanks and go help in our Christmas. It's 365 days.
It is. And then the thing is, it's an urgent problem. These lives, they are being affected physically, mentally, and it's affecting all of us. So I'm really, intrigued by when hurricanes happen, and then everybody jumps in and puts all our energy into it, and we house like hundreds of thousands of people after Katrina, right? It's like, why can't we not house 7,000?
No, I think you're absolutely right.
We could.
I'm just curious about the teenagers that are out in the street that do have homes to go to, but they refuse to go to homes for whatever reason. Do you come across that a lot with the kids that are estranged from their parents?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, our population, we don't serve so many of the teenagers and the young, 20s. There are groups that do that. Unfortunately, there are not enough groups that do that. And you know what? There are really not that many choices for them, unfortunately. And we were just talking earlier about how they're stuck because, they don't get along with their family for multiple reasons, and good ones too. And so CPS is really their only alternative. And so CPS is a very, very restrictive, difficult, sometimes, system. And once you turn 18, you're on your own. So at 18, they find it very hard to manage life here in Houston.
Wow.
At a time where, let's face it, everybody's about themselves. Nobody cares really about anybody but themselves. And yet you guys take the time, find this organization, bring people in from Huntsville, and you care, and you do that. And I know it's Christian based, and You don't try to run religion down their throat or anything. You just extend that hand if you will.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge part in that, especially with searches, the fact that it's not just one person based, it's not 3 people based or 4 person based. It's anybody who wants to serve can go and get involved somewhere and jump in and do something for someone else. The reason, I guess, my theology behind starting what the serve team was I've traveled abroad. I've traveled to Africa. I've been in the hardest of hardest situations, I guess, if you will, for humankind. And you see the Westerners, if you will. And you see that our lives are more like we're good with school, work, family, a little bit of fun, maybe church, if you want to throw that in there. And then you kind of get in this routine of your life. And you do that, and you do that. It isn't until you break the blinders just enough to know that there is a need out there, and that you have no idea how much more blessed you come out as a person. I've been blessed. Every time we go out, I feel like I'm more appreciative of the things that I have. With the serve team, we try to, and we've done this successfully, praise God, to where we've included different churches. We had a lady show up, and from a doctor, Middle Eastern lady, showed up at one of our events, pulled up and was like, hey, I got a bunch of stuff back there, unload it. So we start unloading it. She's like, where do I park? I want to serve. She goes, parks around the corner, gets out, the next car pulls up. She's talking to the driver, and the driver's like, oh, do you go to this church right here? She's like, no, my mosque is around the corner from here. I just believe in what these guys are doing. And that's exactly it. There's, it's cross boundaries. It's not a black thing, a Hispanic thing, a white thing, a Christian thing, and a Muslim thing. It's a human thing. Going out there and serving each other, it empowers you just that much more.
Go
One
ahead.
of the things that Will says too, is that you can't change everybody's world, but you can change somebody's world. And I think that's where, that's what we tell the team a lot. And people get overwhelmed. There's so many needs. What do you do? But just knowing you can impact one life that could change.
And how do you kind of disconnect? Because at some point you have to disconnect a little bit. I mean, I'm sure that's hard. Because like you said, okay, you took the kid who was born in El Paso, Mexico, and you by 8:30 you had fed him, and by this year, and then you had a birthday. So where do you? Because it has to be hard.
I think that's where you work in unity. It's amazing that Search is here, because now we know and we have that contact. We have the next step for them. With a lot of things that we do food pantries, a soup kitchen, a nursing home, and they're all young professionals. They're all families. They're everybody who has their own life. But find 2 hours a month, if you will, to go and bring their families, bring their friends, and spend 2 hours giving back. And I think that's where you find the, okay, I've served and I've done what I have to do. That's my responsibility as a human.
The nursing homes are just, boy, people are really despaired there.
Yes.
Really, just people there just, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, some of the residents that we've been able to build relationships with haven't had a family member come visit them in over a year. Some of them don't even have family, or they do, but they just choose not to visit them. And so it's amazing because our team can go out there and spend time with them, talk to them, just taking that little initiative to just take a few minutes out of your day and change someone's world, basically. So it's, yeah.
Well, we're going to have to take a break. The producers in the back are doing all the hand signs back there. But in closing, please share with us what you'd like to tell the community out there and what you want them to do.
I would like to say that every initiative counts. So whether you have an hour or you want to devote multiple hours during a month, find a group like Serve or Search and do something. And that's the first start, because once there, then you can figure out what's the best role for you, because we can all find talents that we can contribute, and that's the thing that I suggest, because you might not fit in the Search mold. Maybe the Search is not for you, but maybe there's a nursing home or some school that could use you. So just do something.
Is it possible to donate to Search Homeless?
Absolutely. SearchHomeless.org. Donate now.
Awesome. Great. For y'all?
Well, I think that the biggest part about just doing living life is going to be going out there and helping somebody else. There's no bigger reward then that if you want to get involved, you can go to serveteam.org, and if you want to give, it's the429.com, and those funds will go generated to the serve team. But it's, yeah, like Thao said, it's getting involved. Find your niche. In the next segment, you're going to see that we have serve team leaders here. And our motto is, it's amazing what God can do when nobody takes the credit. Because we are all serve team leaders. Every one of us are. Because you can lead your center of influence to go and make a difference somewhere.
Wow. And on that note, Will, lead us into the break. I think you brought us some good pictures.
Yeah, well, you'll see we've been doing a weekly outreach. Sometimes 1, 2, 3, up to 15 in 1 week. But every month we're out there 5 times a month, I'm sorry. We're out serving our community at different levels. So you'll see a lot of that just coming up in what we do in the video and the pictures that you'll see.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be right back after this quick break. Are we okay with the camera? And you're back watching Latino Talk TV. Now we have some other very special guests that are also with the serve team. Let me introduce y'all real quick. Alex Hernandez. And don't call me sir, please. Ashley Petitt.
Yes.
And Jessica Vogler.
Yes, sir.
And Staci Hernandez. All right, so what do y'all do for the serve team? What's on here?
My wife and I, we do the home restoration part of the serve team. We had the pleasure and the honor of serving in the homeless and also the nursing home. But I guess I'm more of a hands-on guy, so when I went my first time to go, it's to this home. It's a member of our church. At the age of 32, he had suffered a double stroke, and so he's severely handicapped, and he has an elderly mother that he lives with, and so their home was in need of a lot of repairs, and the yard, they have a very big yard, which is unusual, right in the Heights area. It's a huge yard, and so they were needing a lot of assistance around the home, and so the serve team came along, and once a month we go there and we do the yard work, and also we took on doing a little bit of remodeling. We repainted all the exterior, added a deck and a cover to the front porch. Being that he's handicapped, but he had there was about a 15, 20 foot stretch of his yard that was just dirt and just rocky soil that he had to go through. He has to use a walker to get to the street, and we went in and put in a sidewalk for him, and we came to a point where we were going to replace the flooring, because they have a particle board for their flooring. That's what they had for many years, and so the problem that we came across was that their house was severely out of level, and well, none of us were experiencing that, and we didn't have any kind of funds or anything to do this. But we were very blessed to have a group, a man that was owns a company, a construction company, and they came in and donated his men and their time and did this. It's pretty substantial amount of work that they did and came in to do, and we were so fortunate to have that. But because of that, we were able to continue in our project, and so we put in a laminate flooring and different things, and it's just been an amazing thing. What I think, to me, what really strikes me is that none of us are construction professionals. So I've had worked with people that haven't ever picked a hammer up before or used a paintbrush before, and it's sometimes a little comical. But the thing is, you see their heart and be able to do the things that they do, and so that's what we do.
Why don't you tell us about your experience?
It's been absolutely amazing. He and I go in, and we actually joined this project with our family. We have 6 children, and they all serve.
Little basketball team.
Yeah, and they all serve. Picking up sticks to mowing the yard to helping lay down flooring, or even just visiting with the family that we're serving. Because that's on top of restoring their home. Also, they don't get a lot of visitors either. So having that communication and that time with them is very important, and showing our children what it's about, what life is about, not just me, but to give back. So that we've seen as young as 3 years old out in the yard picking up sticks and raking, and it's been absolutely amazing.
Jessica and Ashley, what do you do professionally?
I'm a chef, actually a pastry chef, and I'm an office administrator for the Jessica.
And yet you still find time to serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyone can do it.
Anyone can. I mean, from like Staci's saying, from 3 years old up to the oldest person. I mean, we have anyone and everyone comes out to serve and just to do something that's greater than themselves. That's going to last longer than they will. Just change someone's world and make an impact.
So the biggest message is ordinary people
Yeah,
can take the part, just like how you see the signs on the roadway, this mile adopted by
Right.
so-and-so.
Right. Absolutely.
Somebody can take a part and adopt a portion of your community and have a big impact on
Yeah.
the community.
Absolutely.
What you
I absolutely agree. I think a lot of it is choice. I think we make time for what we want to make time for, and surely everyone can find an hour or two where we're not, just at home, where we can go out and touch people and really be the hands and feet of Christ instead of just being so focused on ourselves that we don't look outward. And I think we've come from a culture that is very much of building ourselves, and we don't look past our own front doors. And I think it's important, and that's really what the SERV team is about, is going out and reaching people who other people aren't necessarily considering or paying enough attention to. So it's about making the time to do it. Anybody can make it happen.
I'm sure you see people's homes that are broken down or whatever, but there's people that are broken down, right? Talk about
Exactly.
that.
Absolutely.
I know, just with my involvement, which is primarily with the soup kitchen that we do, Loaves and Fishes, just toward the end, after all the cooking is done and serving the people is done, we always have people lingering around, and I have the chance to just sit and talk with some people. And I think Will had said earlier, people just want to talk. They just want to tell you their stories. Sometimes they just want to talk about the most random of things, but they just need someone to talk to because no one wants to talk to them.
They're a good listener.
Right, they just want an ear to talk to, and if you can just do that for someone, then that's a huge impact on their life,
You know what catches my attention is the diversity in this group.
Yeah.
It's good to see that people from all ethnic groups are involved in this project. It's not very common in some areas of town where you see groups come together. And so I just applaud you all for doing so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think one of the unique things is our first opportunity to serve was in the homeless outreaches. The first 2 things that we did was with the homeless. And y'all talked earlier about the naysayers. I was one of those. I was like, I'm a hands guy, so I work for my living. Why are you just standing there and expecting me to give you something, a handout? And so I didn't really have a lot of sympathy or for that. And so when I first went, my thing was, okay, whatever they need and set up, whatever they need to do this, I'm there. But then one of the things that struck me was like, okay, we're not just here just to give them things. I want you to go out there and talk to them, interact with them. If they want to tell you something about themselves, listen to them. And I was like, whoa, I hope there's a lot of work to do because I'm not looking forward to that. But lo and behold, I look over there and there's my wife talking to a group of 3 individuals, a lady and 2 men. And my wife is very quiet and very shy. And so that really caught my attention. I said, well, I need to go see what this is about. And so I got over there and I got to talk to them. And that changed, radically changed my point of view, because then now I had a faith and a name to that face, and it wasn't just an individual out there just that I was just expecting a handout. And so that really changed my mind about how I did approach things and helping others. I grew up in church, and for 37 years I've always been a person to help and do all kinds of things, but it was never with a clear purpose. And that's something that the serve team is about, is serving with a purpose, and that purpose is to help those individuals and those people and bring to them something they haven't experienced before. And there's a care behind what we do, and it's not just, hey, I'm going to show up and give you something and walk away and never worry about what happens to you. And I think that was one of the unique things that happened for us doing the homeless, because after that I was just like, wow. And then that's when we ended up going to Mr. Cecil's house. And I guess I was a little bit too enthusiastic about the hands-on experience that was like, okay, now you're in charge of that. I'm like, whoa. But that's what's amazing for me about it.
So tell me, in that moment in y'all's lives, and whoever wants to go first, where you had to stop and say, okay, this is what I want to do. Because, growing up, usually, you go to middle school, high school, maybe college. This isn't what you were doing every day or volunteering.
No.
So what was that moment that made you say, okay, you know what, this is what I want to do? Who wants to go first?
For me, I had actually, growing up, I did a lot of volunteer work with a food pantry, and I had the opportunity just with my mother and, urging us to give of ourselves, don't be so self-centered, but it wasn't necessarily me wanting to do that, it was me having to do that. And then high school came, I got into my own life, college, whatever, my life takes over and you just kind of get self-absorbed. And that definitely had happened, and it was just really the beginning of this year I had kind of started having a shift, in my focus of what am I doing with my life, who am I helping? And it was then I just really began searching for a way to serve and a way to get involved, and I heard about the serve team through the 429, the church that I attend, and I would just, it was from there I just plunged right in and was getting involved with every outreach that I could, and it was just an amazing opportunity.
That's wonderful. We have a caller on the line. We're going to go to the phone line. Joe, you're live on the air. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
You have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do have a question. My question is, I was wondering, how has the food ordinance that was passed by the Houston City Council affected the serve team?
Good question. Anybody here, maybe the pantry?
Yeah, I've actually, with the loaves and fishes, we have, we've really not had much, nothing's really been affected through that because they have an actual kitchen, that's certified to serve. But we do have the homeless outreach, and even with that, where we do serve food to them, we have been blessed with a plot of land that's privately owned, and through that, we're able to hand out food and clothing and just do whatever we need to do there to help people. And there's not any, we're not, in opposition with any food ordinance or anything like that. So.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
That was a good question, actually.
It really was. Thanks, Joe.
I have a question for you, if you don't mind. So tell me, what inspired you to get involved? I know you're a tag team, but was there something that triggered you to say, you know what, today I'm going to volunteer?
With my kids.
Well,
Because we got two, and it's like, I tell you what, man, we have to think about going out of the corner store.
Because everybody gets approached about, you should volunteer for this and that.
Yeah.
But what really said, you know what, I'm going to do this today?
And that one.
Well, we went through a lot of things with our family, and we just decided, I really don't have a specific moment that said, okay, this is what we've got to do, but we decided as a family that we wanted to show our children, that we have been so blessed and God has been so merciful to us and so graceful to us that we needed to give back. We wanted to give back. And it was about 1.5 years ago, I believe, that we started, and we just stepped out in faith. It wasn't something that we just openly, went out and did. It was a little bit of a challenge. We had to, it was difficult at first, but.
And what did the kids say the first time that they were out there?
They actually were very excited, and our 8-year-old continually asked, when are we going to go back? When are we going to go back? Because we've been so involved with the home restoration that we haven't been able to attend the homeless outreach or the other Loaves and Fishes, but they look forward to going back. I love to see I have an 11-year-old and 8-year-old that go with us all the time, and they love to hand out Bibles and clothing and toothbrushes and just basic needs, toiletries, whatever the need, food, water bottles. They enjoy that, and to watch them interact, it just made it all the more worthwhile to go back.
After the hurricane, myself and Ben, we were talking about how people didn't have electricity, and within HPO, we put together a group and we used political resources and got a 18-wheeler of ice and water and put together a food drive. It was kind of a spur of the moment, but you saw the need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it does make you feel good. And we had people volunteering, and but unfortunately, it kind of goes away, and then it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And for you guys to kind of focus, I'd say this is the best show all year, because there's a cause, and people, I think Will said, people will walk on the other side of the sidewalk instead of addressing, and trying to help someone.
Absolutely.
And they're all humans. They all live and breathe just as much as we do, in the same way we do.
Yeah.
And they just want that interaction. We've heard so many times that, they want to see truth, and not just, we're here for a day to toot our own horn, but when they see repetition and they see the same faces over and over again out there continuously serving and giving, giving our time is an honor. To be able to honor these people, it's a blessing. It truly is.
One thing I heard recently is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so a lot of times our approach has been like, well, you need to do this, and that, and we're giving them orders as to how to proceed in life. And the difference comes in when they actually see that you care. And one of the things that I've noticed in this 1.5 years is that that's the first thing that I say, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I've done a lot of things before, but it never had a purpose to it, and so there wasn't that fulfillment to it. Now, it's like, why am I doing it? So one of the first things that I'll ask people when I was out there on the streets is like, what makes a difference to you? And so, well, first of all, consistency. If you're out here consistently serving and doing what you're saying you're doing, and consistently doing that, that catches their attention. Second thing is if you genuinely care, and that's where the difference has been for us. And serving as a family, it really has brought us together. Before she would do whatever she was gifted or whatever she felt led to do. I would do what I wanted to do. We were busy always, but there wasn't that unity in the family. And when we started serving with the cause together as a family, it brought us all more together. And that was pretty amazing, though, to us, being able to.
And you can almost feel the passion here.
Soothing, calm.
Yeah, I mean, these are legit people. I mean, this is not a show. I mean, this is true feelings that y'all are pouring out here. And so I applaud your efforts for all that you do. I wish there was more people like that. If we just imagine if we had more people like this, what we could do in the community.
Well, that's the intent of the show. This should make more people like this. If you want to become like them, how do we get in touch with y'all so they can join you?
Through the serveteam.org, it's serveteam.org. That'll take you to our Facebook fan page, and you can find out more information about getting involved and donating, whatever you'd like to do. And it's a great way to get plugged in with the Serve Team.
And really, the great thing about the Facebook page is we give you all the information that you need. So we're not just saying this is what we're doing. We're saying this is where you meet. This is what you can bring if you want to bring something. This is what you can expect, how long to be there. So you're not walking into something blindly. It's, you know, fully what to expect, that if we've said we'll be there from 10:30 to 11:30, we're very much built on decent and in order. So we back up what we say that we're going to do. And so I think a lot of people have come thinking it would be a one-time thing, and then have kind of gotten addicted to serving because it's been so consistent, and they know that we're going to be here, we're in for the long haul, and we're not just here for one time.
You know, that it's interesting that if you just look at the issue with the janitors, you know, and the people, I mean, the pay scale, and maybe they're not homeless, but I mean, and then people do just there was a march last Friday through downtown, and people kind of look at them like they're crazy. They're trying to make a statement, and unfortunately, that's where we are as a society. So for you people to take that and roll up the sleeves and work, there's no excuse for just good old-fashioned elbow grease, right?
Right.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And actually, we're out of time on our TV show. You are watching Latino Talk TV. If you want to become part of the search team, or the Serve team, excuse me, or the Search Homeless Services, join us on our website, latinotalktv.com, or go to
serveteam.org.
serveteam.org, and also Search Services. Please do something. And if you want to do something, don't just do it on Thanksgiving where everybody else is doing it. It's not a one-day-a-year thing. It's a daily process. So you're watching Latino Talk TV. Hope this show made a difference for you. Good night, and see you here next week.